On behalf of everyone at WNET, congratulations to Steve Adubato and the Caucus Educational Corporation on 25 great years of broadcasting.
Hi, I'm Larry Nespoli with the New Jersey Council of County Colleges. At New Jersey's community colleges, we believe that our students, as well as all citizens, need to be informed about the important issues facing higher education. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Hackensack University Health Network, NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 College Savings Plan, turn a dream into a degree, TD Bank, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship. Cohn Resnick, providing accounting, tax, and advisory services for more than 90 years. And by PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger, powering NJ.com.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
How great was that? It's from Pippin.
Yeah.
There she is right there.
Yeah.
Can I introduce you?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Charlotte D'Amboise, who is an actress in Pippin. She plays
Festrada.
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 And Festrada, let's set that up. Who is Festrada?
Festrada is the queen.
Right.
My husband plays the king.
No, your real husband plays the king.
Yes, my real husband plays the king, which is really
Kinda
quite
wild.
fun. Yes, quite fun. And we're like the king and the queen of this kind of fable in this group of players. So that's what I play. And she's just a manipulative, sort of crazy, fun character to play. And not a nice person. All she cares about is her son becoming king, and that's about it. And killing anybody that gets in the way.
And there's the king.
And there's the king. Oh, my God, there he is.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's fun.
And the Pippin story, by the way, 40 years ago, 40 years ago
Yes.
on Broadway, right?
Yeah, on Broadway. I know.
What an amazing story.
I know, it is, and I'm surprised they actually haven't revived it sooner, to tell you the truth, because it's always been a thing kids have grown up with and done it in high schools, and I did it in high school.
You did?
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in New York City.
You
Actually,
did?
about 10 blocks from where we are right now.
10 blocks
Street.
from...
71st Street, right here.
You're kidding.
Yeah, I grew up here at Juilliard. I went to ballet school in this Juilliard.
We just actually had the president of Juilliard right here the other day.
There you go. Yeah.
So you're a part of this whole...
I'm so part of it. Yeah, this is my home. This is where I grew up completely. Yeah.
So therefore, being in this play at this
Yeah.
time right here for you means?
Well, it means a lot because, as I said, it was my high school. I did it at collegiate high school, actually the all-boys school. So I was like, recruited.
Okay.
Recruited.
That would explain it.
Yeah, yeah. And so I have really fond memories of it. And all the songs mean something to me. And also growing up, watching the commercial on television, because it was on Broadway at the time when I was a kid, of the Manson Trio. And I'll never forget that commercial. Wanting to see that show. So it does. I was brought up with it. And it's so great to come back to it, because I just remember when they started playing that music, and every song, you're like, oh my God, that song. Oh yes, that song. Oh, such a great score.
And the story behind Pippin, for those who do not know.
What is the story about?
Yeah, basic story about it.
Basically, well, it's hard to explain, but ultimately it's this group of players that are that go around, that work in, it's a circus group. And they all tell this story about a boy trying to find himself, and they tell it in the Charlemagne time, and they all play characters, but ultimately it's about a young teenager or boy finding out what he wants out of life and what is the
fame and stardom or something.
Something more. So it's like, what does it mean to be extraordinary? That's pretty much the question. What does that mean? Does that mean, you know, being a fantastic dancer, being a performer, doing flips, jumping off a building, burning up in fire? What does it mean to be extraordinary? It may mean just being married and having children. You know, what is the definition of that? And
by the way, you do all that.
I kind of do all that.
I just realized that you're married because your husband's in there with you. You have 2 kids, right?
I have 2 kids.
And your kids have seen Pippin how many times?
13, did I say 13?
And this is not mandatory in your family. They just come because they want to.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
Okay.
They do. They see everything. I want them to see as much theater as possible. I mean, gosh, we live in New York City.
And you do all that. And by the way, when you grew up here, when did you know that you wanted to do this?
Probably like 8 years old.
That young?
Yeah.
You
9, 8, 9. Yeah, I danced. I was at the School of American Ballet here in this building. It's at Juilliard right over there. Really? Yeah, so I'd started ballet very young, and I was doing the Nutcracker Suite and all that stuff at Lincoln Center. And so I was exposed to that.
In the family, too?
My father was a principal dancer with New York City Ballet. So I was exposed with artists and dancers, but I always wanted to sing and act, like I always did. I was always listening to old movies and Judy Garland and Barbra Streisand and all this. I just wanted to be, I wanted more than just dancing. So I knew very young and had a goal my whole life.
By the way, before I ask you about this other initiative that you and your husband are involved in, which is the Triple Arts Program.
Yes.
Before we do that, any costume changes in this?
Oh, just a few, just a few, just a few. You know, we did this show in Cambridge before, and I didn't. I just did a dance number, and then they were like, "Let's try." You know, Strada needs to do something in the circus. She needs to. My husband throws knives, and he does.
Of course.
And he throws knives at me, and that's always fun.
Of course.
But for me, so they wanted to. We needed to find something. So I'm the costume changing act. So yeah.
How many?
Actually, I think I only do. Well, there's kind of 3. There's sort of 3 quick. And then some couple really quick ones. There was 5 at one point, but we cut those. It got in the way of the dance. It was a little too much, but they are amazing, the costume changes.
That's
wild. It's amazing what they do.
Tell me about the Triple Arts
program. Triple Arts is a program that my husband and I put together a few years ago, where we teach children, kids, teenagers to college kids, acting, singing, and dancing. And all 3. So they're learning steps, they're learning songs, they're learning dialogue within a 2-week period. We do about 10 to 15 production numbers so that all the kids could be featured. And ultimately, it's because, you know, as a kid, I danced mostly, and I always felt that I never sang enough and I never acted enough, and I wasn't exposed to it. And this 2-week program, everybody does everything. Even if you can't sing, even if you can't dance, by the end of the program, you're dancing, you're singing, you're acting, and hopefully they come out of it feeling better and feeling that they can conquer anything, do anything, be whatever they want, and have confidence. So it's a fun program. My husband and I love it.
What's it like for you?
For me?
What's it like for you to see them grow like that?
I love it because, you know, these kids come and we have such passion about the business, and it's taught by my husband and I and Broadway people that are in the business, that are performing on Broadway right now. So we just try to give them everything we can and show them what it's like. And to me, it fulfills me because I feel like we have a lot to teach, and to see them grow and to see them come out of a kid that just has never done a dance step and then by the end is doing, you know, 5, 6 production numbers. And they are surprised. You know, they walk out of there like, wow, I can't believe it. Or kids that never thought they could act or doing scenes, and they realize, and they take paths or differently, or they don't, or they become a doctor or a lawyer. But what is better than acting and singing and dancing? Literally, what is better?
Gives you tremendous confidence, too.
It does, and also it just uses every part of your body. You know, you're using your brain, you're using creativity, you're using your physical, and so the amount that you get done in one day and learning, I just think it's the best thing for kids. I put my kids, even though they're too young for it, but I throw them in it anyway. I'm like, you guys do this, do this.
And they love it.
They love it.
Can we plug where Pippin is?
It's on Broadway. It's at the Music Box Theater on 45th Street.
The Music Box Theater?
Music Box.
Box Theater where?
On 45th Street. It's literally I don't want to say the best show on Broadway, but one of the best.
Say it!
The best show on Broadway. I'm very proud of the show.
Obviously.
I really, really am.
And plug your husband again.
Oh, his name is Terrence Mann, and he's gorgeous, and he's sexy, and he is...
You don't have to go into detail. I just said plug him.
He's fantastic. And he's my husband for 25 years.
And how much do you love public television?
Love public television.
Well, why don't you plug a little bit,
huh?
huh?
Oh, my God. No, this program, I watch it every night.
WNET, you love it? Channel 13?
I love Channel 13, fantastic.
All right.
Yeah, I'm constantly watching.
On cue, you're supposed to plug when I ask you. Charlotte d'Amboise.
Yes.
Actress in Pippin, plays Festrada.
That's right.
You're terrific. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be back right after this.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Glen Berger is the author of a book called Song of Spiderman. How you doing?
Good, good.
I love this. You wrote a book about this little play called Spiderman.
Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. Actually, we had Reeve Carney, who was, you heard of him. He was Spiderman,
lovely fellow.
Right? You know, here it is, folks. Let's take a look at it. So this is the book, The Inside Story of the Most Controversial Musical in Broadway History by Glen Berger. So what makes Spiderman,
yes,
right, Broadway, it was supposed to cost how much when it started?
Well, 25 million or something like that, but that was before we knew we were going to pay for the largest theater on Broadway for a year with nothing in it.
And it wound up costing 60-something, whatever, million, whatever. Who knows? So you decided to write a book about it because I heard there are a few problems with that. I may be wrong. I heard there are a few problems with Spider-Man.
Problems with Spider-Man the musical?
Yeah. And the creative team behind it was?
Julie Taymor and Bono and Edge and then a whole host of other amazingly talented people, George Seepin, the set designer, and Danny Ezerlo, the choreographer, and the list goes on and on.
And some of the most significant issues that the play had include?
Well, issues...
there were some accidents, I know that.
You know, what happened was, some of it was you have these dreams of what can be on the stage, but it requires a certain amount of technology to, you know, do its part. And we didn't really realize until we got into, right before previews, that some of the things we were really relying on just weren't going to work. We had an ending based on this enormous web net that was going to descend from, you know, over the audience, and that's where the final battle was going to take place between Spider-Man and Arachne.
What happened?
2 weeks or so, maybe 3 weeks before our first preview, we learned that it was not going to work. It was this $1 million sort of ring truss that was going to deploy this web, but a web which was basically netting, and netting, you know, over thousands of years, was designed to catch on things. And they knew that that was going to be a challenge, but they knew that they weren't going to know if it was going to work or not until it was up.
Oh my God, it almost sounds like a website. If you were going to have like healthcare on the website.
Yeah, well,
story.
I do have compassion for anybody who, you know, who
big
has
undertaking.
enormous undertaking, and then you don't know if it's going to. So yeah, so 3 weeks before the first preview, we didn't have an ending.
Oh my!
Just
you didn't
to-
have an ending other
just
than
to
that.
name one.
And then some people got hurt.
And then some people got hurt.
Well-publicized incidents.
Yeah, it was well-publicized incidents, absolutely. The, you know, and some of the things were, I mean, I won't say minor, but they certainly, we were already under that microscope, and so we had a couple things happen with that put a couple people in casts, and then 3 weeks into our previews, Chris Tierney falls 35 feet off of the bridge because his safety line hadn't gotten attached to the floor. So,
and by the way, the relationships between Bono and Julie Taymor, they get along?
They, you know, for 5 of the 6 years they got on. You know, just it was beautiful to watch.
And then
last year, well, you know what happens? Everything gets twisted and strained. It was such a pressure cooker that I don't think anybody was acting as they would act when, you know, you're just sitting around, you know, with no pressure.
A lot of pressure.
So you have moments, you know, to decide crucial things, and instead of finding time in a room together to figure out how we're going to get out of this, you know, things just started
Where'd you fit into this? Yeah, how'd you fit in? Come on.
You know, I was right there. I was the co-book writer. Julie was also the co-book writer. However, in her contract, she had approvals over everything in the book. I didn't actually know that. And she was the director. And so, you know, I had certain notions about what needed to be done. And if I couldn't convince my co-book writer, I went to other people, maybe Bono, maybe Edge, maybe Michael Cole, to, you know, maybe you could convince her. I kept waiting for people to be able to get into a room. I'm a big believer of getting in the room together and
confront the situation.
Yeah, lock the door and don't let anybody out until we've solved the thing. And those meetings didn't happen. And it got weirder and weirder as those meetings continued to not happen.
Well, then why did you decide to write this book?
Why did I write this book?
Yeah.
This book is all about collaboration. It's all about, you know, it's, at the end of the day, it's not even about Spider-Man.
What's it about?
Well, it's about people, human beings, working with other human beings to bring something intangible into the tangible world. And all the transcendent connection and hair-tearing exasperation that can come out of that. And so, you know, really any endeavor, and this is just, it's just a play in the end. It's not the Iraq War, but it is reflective of any endeavor, you know, that anybody
could be a television
undertakes.
Production. Could be an operation in a hospital.
Exactly.
Could be anything.
Could be anything.
You have to be together.
Stonehenge, you know, dragging those stones from Wales. Anything that humans have had to do. It's humans working together. You know, look at Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, the original creators of Spider-Man, the comic book. They had a falling out. You know,
stuff happens.
Well, yeah, stuff happens. Who said that? Donald Rumsfeld?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm talking different stuff.
Yeah.
Relationship-wise, stuff happens. Real quick, before I let you out of here, the reaction to the book from Julie?
I don't know. I don't think she's read it yet. I mean, she's been
Bono?
busy on Midsummer's Night. Bono and Edge read it over the summer. You know, they dug it and signed off on it. You know, they thought, you know, the book, I wrote the book not to throw darts and stab backs, but to really try to get inside everybody's brain to really explicate why people do what they do.
Well, I want to plug the book one more time. Glen Berger is the author. It is called The Song of Spider-Man, the inside story of the most controversial musical in Broadway history. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Good stuff. Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Colum McCann is the author of a fascinating book called Transatlantic. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
The premise of this book is one that I have a feeling if you didn't get into, no one else would. Transatlantic, 3 time periods that you look at here. People who make the connection. Right.
Spectacular transatlantic journeys, really. One being Alcock and Brown, who took the first transatlantic flight in 1919, basically in a boat of air with linen wings and wooden struts and 2 Rolls-Royce engines. They were the first ones to cross the Atlantic.
Right.
Frederick Douglass, 1845.
27 years of age?
27 years of age, still a slave, and he goes across to Ireland to go on a lecture tour. Another spectacular transatlantic journey, and then a series of transatlantic journeys by one of the great peacemakers of our time, Senator George Mitchell, who we all know is still, you know, negotiating peace for us in all sorts of ways.
Why'd you get into this? And what is the fascination? By the way, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Dublin, and I think one writes towards one's obsessions. And I was sort of obsessed by this idea of Douglass. I thought, this is a fantastic story. So a black slave goes to Ireland, and the famine unfolds at his feet, the Irish famine, which later fed generations of Americans. There's so many Americans out there whose ancestors came from those 5 years of terrible famine. He was there at that time. He was witness to those moments. And he's one of the great legislators of our times. I thought that was a great story, but I wanted to bring it all the way up to the present day, because when Obama went to Ireland in 2011, who did he mention? But Frederick Douglass. And Obama was really influenced by Douglass too. But Douglass, I think, was so important to this country, almost as important as to the shape of this country as Lincoln, and also therefore sort of important to the shape of Ireland and Irish history as well.
The connection, though. The connection between Ireland and...
It's like every good story. The connection between these three stories, it's all about women. So, yes. There's a whole... so in the novel...
Even Frederick Douglass?
Oh, yeah, no, well, I make up 4 generations of women and tell their stories.
These are fictional women, though.
These are fictional women.
Go ahead.
So I have non-fiction characters, and then I have fictional characters, and I braid them together. It's like a tapestry. So the fiction is the thread that weaves together the history and the non-fiction, and basically trying to say that all of our lives are important. There's no such thing as an anonymous life. Even the anonymous lives feed the big history of our times.
But Colum, when you're combining non-fiction, the names of these real people, historical figures, with fiction,
yes,
complicated, confusing?
Complicated, confusing. I have to hold all these sort of contradictory ideas at the same time. But the way I see it is, how do we look at history? You know, if you want to know about the Great Depression in the United States, what do you go back to? We go, certainly I go back to The Grapes of Wrath. I go back to a fictional character, Tom Joad. Fiction legislates so much of our history.
Set in time. Fiction set in time.
Exactly, set in that time. So I'm taking all these different times and bringing them all together in a sort of stew that becomes an Irish stew and an American stew. But it's really essentially about the you know, the landscape of the human impulse.
This is not your first novel.
This is number 6, and so book number 8. I wrote a book called Let the Great World Spin, which was set in New York about Philippe Petit's tightrope walk across the World Trade Center towers in 1974. Oh, there it is. There it is. Yeah.
Set the context again.
Well, Philippe Petit in 1974 walked a quarter of a mile in the sky between the 2 World Trade Centers.
I remember seeing that video.
And to me, this act of creation was in perfect opposition to the spectacular act of destruction that happens in 2001. And when I began to look at the years, 1974, we had the soldiers coming home from Vietnam. We had issues of liberation theology. We had issues of art. The internet was being born. You could almost map that over onto 2001 and have one be an allegory for the other. So Philippe Petit's tightrope walk, to me, becomes an allegory for, not for the towers coming down, but for recovery and grace, because I believe in recovery. I believe in grace. I believe in the fact that we can heal. I'm sort of one of those unrepentant...
You're an optimist. I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Given everything you've seen.
Yes.
Still an optimist.
I've seen a lot. I took a bicycle across this country when I was in my early 20s. I've gone to a lot of different places. And I do believe that I'm able to get as dark as any cynic, and I can get down and dirty with the cynic, but the cynic bores me. I think the cynics are lazy. I think they're sentimental. They live in the cloud of their own
Excuse me, interrupting. A cynic, sentimental.
Yeah.
I know. Sounds like an oxymoron.
That's turning the tables. The cynics like to say that the optimists are sentimental about human nature, but to me, the cynic is one who lives in these very defined borders of his or her own pessimism, and it's completely uninteresting to me. What's really much more interesting to me is if you're able to deal with them and then just walk away from them and be much more... I think optimists are much more muscular, much stronger than the cynics are.
It's particularly interesting for me to hear you talk like that, because there is either a perception, misconception, if you choose to look at it that way, that there are some folks who come from the part of the world that you have come from that choose to look at the world not in that fashion.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, the Irish and our songs and our stories?
Yeah, well, I've heard a few of them. And my wife is a good part Irish.
Well, all our love songs
I'm not saying she's a natural pessimist, but I know some of her relatives. So, I mean, I'm going to get in trouble for that. But you know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about. All our love songs are deeply unhappy, and all our war songs are really raucous and uproarious.
So where did you come from?
I don't know, but I do believe that I'm interested in bridging this notion between Ireland and America, between this sort of darkness and this light, between this optimism and this, you know, this reality that exists in Europe. This is more of a European sensibility. And I like the idea that we can get out. I do believe that there is a value. I know you work with kids and stuff. You work with charities. I do the same too. I work with a charity called Narrative.
I was going to ask you about Narrative 4.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Well, we bring kids from all over the world, from Belfast, from the south side of Chicago, from Haiti, from New Orleans. They come together not just to tell each other stories, but to literally live in one another's shoes for a while and actually inhabit each other's lives.
For instance?
For instance, I will have a kid from Chicago get together with, say, a kid from Newtown, Connecticut, because we're working with kids from Newtown, Connecticut, and they will get together.
Given the horrific events from Newtown.
Exactly, from last year, and they will exchange one another's stories, and then I will get up and I'll say, if you and I were talking, I'll say, hi, my name is Steve, and when I was 12 years old, this happened to me, and you'd say, hi, my name is Colum, and when I was 14 years old, and you know, I was in Dublin, this thing happened to me. Big stories of great humor. They can be stories of great sadness. They can, but what happens is that they become one another. The greatest act of empathy is the ability to become somebody else, and I think that's what we've lost a lot of these days, and I think it's really powerful for kids.
I'm glad you chose to be an optimist.
Thank you.
You mind if I plug your book again?
Oh, please.
Speaking of optimist.
Please, please.
Being an optimist. Transatlantic, the author is Colum McCann, and we appreciate you coming into our world of public television. We welcome you, and we wish you nothing but the best.
And I appreciate you too. Thank you so much.
Okay, keep doing what you're doing, okay?
Cheers.
Also taking care of those kids in Narrative 4.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colum.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System. Funding has been provided by Hackensack University Health Network, NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 College Savings Plan, TD Bank, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, Cone Resnick, and by PSE&G. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been made possible in part by Celgene.
We can see it. This day has never been closer. Today, thanks to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, hundreds of thousands with blood cancer are living a normal life. We're almost there. We're making cures happen. Join us.